which is shown in red, compared to fall of last school year. Additionally, the percentage of students performing at the proficient or distinguished levels, shown in green, have increased from last fall to this fall. Next slide. Similar to reading, our students are seeing growth in mathematics. Approximately 65% of students in the district are showing average to high average growth in mathematics from fall of 2021 to fall of 2022 when compared to students across the nation. Our cluster level data is showing similar patterns in students' growth in mathematics. This speaks to our strategy to support our students in mathematics. Next slide. We can use the fall mathematics estimates of the Georgia Milestone Achievement levels to gather whether we are headed in the right direction. Fall 2022 to 2023 MAT results indicate that at the district and cluster levels, we are reducing the percentage of students performing at the beginning level in mathematics compared to fall on the last school year. Additionally, the percentage of students in the proficient and distinguished level in mathematics, shown in green, have increased from last fall to this fall. Next slide. And now I will hand it over to Dr. Hervey to go into more details about the BAS-3 assessment.
Thank you. Next slide. As part of the Whole Child Framework, the district secured its first ever universal social emotional behavior screener last school year, which is the BAS-3 BEST. The BEST screens for a variety of behavior and emotional disorders that can lead to adjustment problems. This tool is a quick and efficient way to obtain screener data for students ages 3 to 18 for behavior and emotional risks. Next slide. So you may be asking, why screen for social, emotional, behavioral health? In addition to learning more about the risks all students may be subject to, the beauty of this screener is that it will help to put students on the radar of school staff who otherwise may not be there. What we have learned is that schools may not be aware of the inner and emotional struggles of students who don't advocate for themselves, or may be students with good grades and typical behavior. The data from this screener will create an evidence-based pathway for students to receive additional supports. It will provide information that will help schools to focus their effort, time, and resources on students who have the highest needs, and will aid schools in making big picture programming decisions in support of students. Next slide. The screener will be administered twice per school year, once in the fall and once in the spring. The fall administration window just closed on October the 7th. The spring administration window will open February the 6th and close March the 3rd. Screening was completed during a student's homeroom period, advisement period, or during the period designated at the school level. Parents, you will receive a score report following each administration window. And for the fall administration, parents should have expected to receive their report by October the 28th, so just last Friday. The World Languages Department worked collaboratively with student support to ensure that the needs of English learners and their families were addressed throughout the screening process. And the World Languages Department will work with schools to ensure that all families understand their child screener report. Next slide. All right, so take a moment to take note of the BAS-3 BEST screener indexes and their explanations. These acronyms you will see again in the next few slides as I preview a sample score report. The screener will produce student data that is measured in risk. Teacher and parent forms will reveal whether a student is at risk for developing externalizing behaviors, such as hyperactivity or aggression, internalizing behaviors, such as anxiety or depression, or adaptive skills deficits, or problems with communication or social skills. Student forms will reveal whether a student is at risk for developing internalizing behaviors, such as hyperactivity or attention problems, or personal adjustment deficits, such as relationship problems, self-esteem challenges, or self-reliance issues. Students are given an overall score, which is the BERIT score, that indicates how far their score is from the average of the norm group. The color coding helps to give you a glance at how risk is measured as normal risk, elevated risk, or extremely elevated risk. Next slide. When you receive your cover letter and score report from your child's school, it may be printed in color, such as the copy on the left, or it may be printed in black and white, such as the copy on the right. The two reports are the same, and both provide you with the same information. I want to point out that even if you receive the black and white copy of the report, if you take note of the words next to the gray dot, then you will see whether the indexes were determined to be normal, elevated, or extremely elevated for risk. I want you to have an opportunity to view an example of what a screener report could tell you for each student. In the next few slides, I will provide you with more explanation of the individual components of a score report. Next slide. This is an example of a sample score report for a 4th grade elementary school student at ABC Elementary School. On the score report, you see the assessment results and validity indicators. If you look in the column that says assessment results, you see the BERI, or the Behavioral and Emotional Risk Index, which indicates how far away from the norm average this student scored. Remember the color coding that I referenced earlier. The green dot and wording next to the BERI tells us that this student has scored as normal risk, which does not indicate a need for support or follow-up at this time. The validity indicators provide an explanation of the extent to which this particular score report may be considered valid and that you can trust the outcome of the report. Validity index indicators will show as green for acceptable, yellow for caution, or red for extreme caution. The F index will let you know how harsh or overly negative the rater was in their responses. The consistency index will let you know if there were different or conflicting responses provided to questions that are similar. The response pattern index lets you know if a pattern was detected that may indicate that the rater selected answers randomly or in a pattern. Here you see that the F index, consistency index, and response pattern index is acceptable, which means that you can trust the outcome of this report. Next slide. Part of the score report that you receive will contain the actual student responses to the questions asked and the frequency to which these items occur, which would be never, sometimes, often, or always. This student acknowledges that she sometimes has trouble sitting still, sometimes feels like her life is getting worse and worse, and sometimes feels that no one understands her. This student also acknowledges that school feels good to her always. Others have respect for her always, and her parents like to be with her always. Reviewing the individual questions can provide you as a parent with more information to better understand how your student may currently interpret their day-to-day environment. However, remember that the BERI of this score report was normal risk, which means that the responses this student shared are comparable to the average norm of other students that have taken the screener. All right, next slide. All right, so this score report is a little bit different. This is an example of a score report for a 10th grade high school student at XYZ High School. The red dot and the wording next to the BERI tells us that this student has scored as extremely elevated in risk, which may indicate a need for support. Note that I said that although the BERI is listed as extremely elevated, that there may be a need for support. That is because the score report is a starting point, and there are other actions that are necessary to be taken by student support staff within the school to confirm this risk and identify need before recommending support. Also noted is that internal risk, which measures risk for behaviors associated with depression or anxiety, is elevated for risk. And the self-regulation index, which measures risk for self-control, is extremely elevated. Since this student scored elevated for both internal and self-regulation risks, support may be needed in both areas. According to the validity indicators, you can see that the F index, consistency index, and the response pattern index are all acceptable, which means that you can trust the outcome of this report. Next slide. The second part of this student score report provides you as a parent and school staff with more information on where additional support may be indicated. This student endorses having trouble sitting still always. His parents trust him never. His school feels good to him never. He feels like his life is getting worse and worse always. He forgets to do things always. He gets into trouble for not paying attention always, and he is never good at making decisions. Again, this information is a starting point that helps to point others in the right direction of where to begin in supporting this student. Next slide. Now that I've briefly explained how to interpret a score report, I want to provide you with a few pointers to remember while viewing your child's BAS3 Best report. The purpose of the Universal Screener is to identify students who might benefit from additional resources or follow up with a trained school professional. The BAS3 Best is a starting point. Again, I think I've already said that 3 times, but it bears repeating. School student support staff may take additional steps to confirm risk and identify the need of any student who has a score report that is extremely elevated for risk and elevated for risk. Results of the screener are based on a student's responses on a given day and are not meant in any way to be considered a diagnosis. Most students have their needs already met by services provided within the school, but additional support is available if it's deemed necessary. And last but certainly not least, parents and guardians are partners in this process and will be consulted if risk is confirmed and additional supports are recommended. Next slide. The data provided by the BAS3 Best empowers school staff to build stronger programming to meet the needs of students. At Tier 1, schools may focus on building community, increasing programming to bolster behavioral support, and be proactive in taking steps to create a welcoming culture of inclusion. Other supports that are available at schools range from referrals with school-based staff, small groups, skill building, or a referral to receive support from licensed professionals. Next slide. Let me take a moment to say thank you to all of the parents, guardians, and family members and the support that you provide to students. Your role in this effort of providing for the needs of the whole child is key. Maintaining an open line of communication with school staff, working as a team with school staff to determine support interventions, engaging in conversation with your student about their day-to-day, and continuing to follow up with your child's school to provide updates and insight on how strategies and interventions are working are some of the key ways that parents can help support this effort. Now I'll pause there to see if there are any questions. Okay, no questions, so we will move on to our next session, which is telehealth services for both physical health and mental health. So greetings again, I'm Shannon Hervey, the Director of Student Support. And during this session, Dr. Hildreth, who is the Director of Health Services, and I will bring you updates regarding telehealth. So APS is excited to expand telehealth services to students that will increase access to acute physical care or short-term mental health care. School-based telehealth programs are a comprehensive approach to increasing children's access to health care and closing the gaps in care resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, such as mental health and other chronic conditions. Next slide. As you may be aware, APS partners with 7 mental health wraparound providers who are assigned to schools throughout the district. During school year 22, we learned that our providers were faced with numerous challenges, including lack of funding, insurance challenges, guardian noncompliance, and provider shortages, which impeded their ability to provide support to students. Also during school year 22, what we know is that 37% of students, or almost 20,000 students, were chronically absent. Additionally, results of the BAS-3 BEST indicated that 25% of APS students were elevated or extremely elevated for risk of developing an emotional or behavior disorder. This is important because what research tells us is that students missing school because of mental health or physical health reasons are a top reason that contributes to chronic absenteeism. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Hildreth, who will speak to us about the physical health side of telehealth.
Good afternoon, actually good evening, everyone. So when we look at the physical health side, we want to just kind of look at some of the data points. Currently, there are 2 APS telehealth locations, and they're located at Fickett and Finch Elementary. Our existing partnership with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta helps us to provide this resource to our students. We currently have 1,293 APS students who have stated they have at least one chronic condition. And again, this is those who have reported that they have a chronic condition. When we look at the data from last year, we had 25,300 APS students who were sent home by an RN or an LPN at their school. So when we look at all of this information, it helped us to really also look to see how can we make some changes for the 2023. So for school year 2023 APS Whole Child Intervention Initiatives, we look to expand our existing telehealth services from 2 schools to all APS traditional and non-traditional schools, and also to provide telehealth services to students on demand, not just physical, but mental health services as well. And also to make telehealth available for students at school and at home. So the benefit, of course, is it's not just at a physical plant at the school, but also so that students can access this service at home in the comforts of their own home. So let's look at the who, what, when, where, and why. So with Hazel Health, Hazel is a telehealth service that is designed specifically to address the needs of our K-12 schools that provide high quality services and support at home or from school to address the mental and physical needs of our students. What is Hazel Health? It's a high quality doctor visit for therapy sessions as well as for the physical sessions. When we look at the physical health services, those services are provided by Hazel doctors, nurse practitioners, and physician assistants. And we look at the mental health services that are being provided. Those services are provided by locally licensed and culturally competent therapists who specialize in addressing the needs of our students and our children and adolescents. So when are these services provided? During the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our students can access telehealth services at home or from their school. And where are we leveling these services, providing these services? Again, at all our traditional APS schools and non-traditional school sites. We have initiated our first phase 1 cluster that was implemented actually on 10/31/22. So just as of yesterday, we implemented phase 1, and those clusters are Thorough Cluster, Douglas Cluster, North Atlanta Cluster, South Atlanta Cluster, and Jackson Cluster. Our phase 2 clusters will be implemented 28, 2022. Those clusters are Midtown, Carver, Mays, Washington, and our non-traditional sites. So why are we doing this? Of course, we heard from student voice, we looked at our data, and we realized that these services that we're providing to our students will increase students' access to the services and support that they need to be well. And also, this can assist with removing barriers to quality physical health and mental health supports for our students. So what are the next steps? How do we roll this out? We've already started rolling it out, but we cannot do any of these services without consent. So consenting to Hazel Health telehealth services is a requirement. All services must be provided with consent. So a health services consent form must be completed before receiving telehealth services from Hazel Health. So before calling Hazel, parents and guardians should complete the consent process. And there are just 3 quick steps. The first step is to visit our website at https://my.hazel.co/Atlanta Public Schools/ and then click on sign up now. The next step is to fill out the form and click submit consent. And then the final step is finish creating an account by entering the phone number, and a 6-digit code will be sent via text, and you should be able to fill out the student's information. And to the right on the screen, you'll see this a screenshot of what that information entails of collecting information that you would need to fill out for the consent form. Again, it is imperative that a consent is on file, a consent is completed before these services can be provided to a student. So Hazel at Home services, Hazel at Home services is where students and families can have access to telehealth services in the comforts of their own home. There's also a link that must be completed, and the account link to the student must be created using the following link. So again, the link is listed here is https://my.hazel.co/patient. And we launched that October the 24th. Services are available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And again, on the right of the screen, you'll see what that what that screen looks like and what information you'll need to provide. So again, consent is required. We have launched Hazel at Home. We have launched Hazel in the school settings, and we cannot do this without a consent being completed for each of our students. I'm going to pause there and open it up for questions and answers so we can address any concerns that you may have or questions you may have. So I'll look in the chat. Okay. All right. So our next presenter will go over APS Personalized Learning Focus.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. In our school district, we have a laser-like focus on personalized learning. This work is led by the Office of Instructional Technology under the leadership of Dr. Aaliyah Henderson-Rosser, who is our Assistant Superintendent. And so this evening, my colleagues and I will provide you with an overview of personalized learning and what it looks like in our school district. Next slide. And so when we think about personalized learning, and I know that you guys are very familiar with our North Star in Atlanta Public Schools, which is the APS 5. As mentioned earlier, the personalized learning is one of the APS 5. And so it is great that our school district has identified this as a priority. And we feel confident that personalized learning is a game changer that will really have a positive impact on how our students succeed in the classroom. But personalized learning is an instructional approach, and it empowers our students to build ownership of their own learning. It's student-centered, and it really calls upon us as educators to be responsive to the needs of our students, making sure that we provide them with what they need when they need it. Our approach to personalized learning is one size fits one, not one size fits all. And so we are definitely committed to providing all of our scholars in the school district with a personalized learning experience. Next slide. When we decided to move forward with a personalized learning approach, we identified the core 4 as a framework to inform this work. And so our core 4 is based upon reflection and goal setting, targeted instruction, collaboration and creativity, and flexible path and pace. Our focus on the core 4 really allows us to foster a nurturing learning environment. And what's unique about this approach is that student ownership is at the core, it's at the center. Next slide. And so when we think about reflection and goal setting, we acknowledge and incorporate practices that will allow our students to build bridges between what they are learning and why they are learning. And we believe that when students have a very clear understanding of that, they're able to establish their goals and to reflect on their practices, their learning, and what they feel that they need to do next. Targeted instruction is another aspect of the core 4. And we believe that we can achieve targeted instruction when students have a very clear understanding of what they are learning. They can articulate what they are learning. And it also provides students with an opportunity to make choices about what they learn, how they learn it, based upon their needs and their interests. Flexible path and pace is another aspect of the core 4. And so we also realize and acknowledge that students learn in different ways. And so for us to truly personalize learning for our scholars, it's important for us to provide many resources and strategies for students to demonstrate mastery of the curriculum and of the standards. And so that's what flexible path and pace is all about. And then finally, collaboration and creativity creates a space for our students to work together, to share ideas, to problem solve, to create solutions to situations that's happening in their community or in their school, and to complete projects together. But that's what collaboration and creativity is all about. Next slide. And so we are, again, 100% committed as a school district to making sure that over time, 100% of our schools are deeply involved in personalized learning. And we want to make certain that it's evident over the next 3 years. And so you will see before you our Wave 1 schools. These are the schools and the clusters that were represented in Wave 1, which began during the 21-22 school year. Next slide. And because of the success of the schools in Wave 1, we have additional schools, many schools, 20 plus schools who are now working very closely with us to implement personalized learning in the school district. And so if you don't see your school or your cluster listed here, they will join us in Wave 3. But the goal and the commitment is for every Atlanta public school to be committed to personalized learning and creating those types of experiences for our students. And so next, my colleague and supervisor, Dr. Henderson Rosser, is going to come and talk with you a bit about how we incorporate, how instructional technology allows us to approach and maintain and facilitate, foster personalized learning in our schools. Dr. Henderson Rosser.
Thank you, Dr. Sumler-Faison. I appreciate the intro. I'm going to just delve a little bit into how our educational technology specialists and our Department of Instructional Technology supports this core 4 personalized learning effort. And although in instructional technology, we're focused on the task, not necessarily the tool, it supports all of the 4 core personalized learning aspects. But one thing that we really thrive in when it comes to instructional technology of the core 4 is collaboration and creativity. So we really want our students to be creative in their learning, and we're going to dive in the next couple of slides to show you what we think they can do with their computers, with their technology that's in the classroom, and how they can make the software come alive. So the instructional technology department encourages students to work together using EdTech tools, also share with each other, create projects, and then learn more about each other as well as themselves. Who are they as a learner? That's what personalized learning is all about. It's a 1-2 to one approach around how you learn using your technology that's in your hands. So what is collaboration and creativity? Why does it matter? Why are we trying to make this a goal for our students? It matters for a couple of the reasons that you see listed here. It helps our students to become independent thinkers. They can work with one another. They can create and produce. They can create new solutions and projects. And they can actually share any of the work that they are doing with an authentic global audience. And many of our classrooms have been involved in that and have done just that. We've got pen pals from across the ocean, and they're really learning more about cultures and different students everywhere around the globe. Our next slide. So in using all of these wonderful resources, we have one place in which our students can just log in and everything is available. We want them to take ownership of their learning experience. So they have access to all of the various software apps through My Backpack. If you don't have My Backpack downloaded on your phone or your iOS device, or even your Samsung Google device, you can go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and download APS My Backpack. These are just some examples of some of the apps that we have for our students to do this collaboration and creativity. We have Adobe Express. We have Canva, Google Drawings. Students can access Discovery Education, which has a wealth of videos and knowledge and information. They can make like a Pinterest board of something that they're interested in, or they can make a Pinterest board of the Civil War. So it gives them a lot of access to different things that help them with their learning needs and also what the teacher is discussing in the classroom. We are proud to announce a great partnership in which another way that students can take ownership of their learning is through our partner, Paper. They are an online tutoring service that is available 24/7. So there's a late night weekend and you have a question about a math problem, you can sign into Paper. A lot of our teachers use it during the school day to help support students, and you can use it after school in any of our Christmas breaks or different breaks that we have coming available. This can also be accessed in My Backpack, and it's available for elementary, middle, and high school students. You can also access live tutors. When you log on, someone will be there waiting to meet your needs and tutor you on all the different aspects and courses that are there. One of the final tools that we did talk about last year that kind of debuted, I want to bring it back to your attention, but this is how you can get involved with your students' personalized learning journey. You can log on and have access to our Securely app. It also flags activities that may list self-harm or bullying for your student, but you can set rules and times for when your student can access and use their device. And you can set up a schedule to make sure that they are working on the actual academic work that they should be and not outside of a time frame that you have not set for them. So it really puts the parents in control. And if you want information about this, please make sure you contact your school to learn more about it. So we're giving you all the tools for you to help support your scholar in their personalized learning journey. And I want to kick it over to a wonderful colleague of mine that works in our department. This is Jennifer Saunders, and she's going to talk about how personalized learning is used in our library media centers.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson Rosser, and good evening, everyone. I am Jennifer Saunders, the director of our Library Media Services Department. And to help our students become successful learners, they need to be proficient readers. To become a proficient reader, our students must practice reading. To practice reading, our students should be able to visit and use the school library media center. In Atlanta Public Schools, every school has a certified school library media specialist in our library media centers who help our students learn about their personal reading habits and set goals for their reading. So when we think about personalized learning from the Library Media Center, we land in the space of student reflection and goal setting, which is one of the 4 components of personalized learning. Next slide, please. One thing our library media specialists are doing this year in alignment with personalized learning is to help each student recognize their reading identity. They help discover who our students are as a reader. When students learn about their reading identity, it's more than what's your favorite book or who is your favorite author. It's really digging into personal reading habits like where do you like to read? Do you have books at home? Is there a time of day in which you prefer to read? Do you read when you aren't assigned a reading task? Are you a part of any reading programs? Our library media specialists start with reading identity, and we ensure that there is district-wide and school-wide programming to give our students the opportunity to grow as healthy, independent, free choice readers. Next slide, please. Some of the programs we have include Race to Read, which is a district and a citywide effort to build a city that reads. We have an annual Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl competition. We partner with the Georgia Tech women's basketball team with a program called Buzzer Readers to encourage our students to read independently and keep a log of their reading habits. These are just a few of the programs that are available to our students to help them reflect on their reading habits, set goals, and become even more proficient readers. So I challenge you to ask your student, ask them what book are they reading, or have they stopped by their school library media center this week? So now I'm going to turn it over to our director of our virtual learning, Ms. Cassandra Holmes. Cassandra?
Thank you, Jennifer. Let me first apologize for not being on camera. I had to switch locations of where I was presenting, but nonetheless, let me draw your attention to the slide. So Atlanta Virtual Academy, we are certainly involved with all the 4 core areas of personalized learning. When we begin to look at self-paced and path, our students are able to decide exactly when they want to take their virtual class, when they want to log in, how long they want to be involved in a virtual class. When we think about targeted instruction, our students are definitely a part of that whole process because they are the ones that actually sit with their counselors and they look at, you know, what that projection is going to be from middle school to graduation. How can we accelerate? How can we take high school courses and earn credit in the middle school program? And then when you look at the third component of collaboration and creativity, Atlanta Virtual Academy, we are definitely moving in that direction and have been in that direction for quite some time. We've been exploring options with virtual reality learning. Our students have access to all types of tech tools that foster collaboration. So we are right there in the mix of everything that we are putting available for our students with respect to personalized learning. And I would encourage you, if online learning is something that you think is a fit for your family, a fit for your learning, students in grades 6 through 12, reach out to their counselors. We have so many opportunities during the school year, during the summertime. Students that may fall behind, we offer credit recovery opportunities. So we are right there doing the work, making the difference in our students to ensure that they are getting a personalized experience in the virtual academy.
All right, I think we're ready for the next slide. All right, so our final session for this evening is around our APS vision for math, teaching, and learning. Next slide, please. So during the spring of the 2022 school year, our district implemented a math audit to determine the effectiveness of math instruction across our district. One of the recommendations from that audit was to establish a district-wide vision for mathematics teaching and learning. The purpose of this math vision is to establish a clear pre-K through 12 vision for excellent math instruction across Atlanta Public Schools, and to train all mathematics educators on the pre-K through 12 vision for excellent mathematics instruction so that they can use this vision as the foundation for effectively teaching mathematics. The goals for this vision are to ensure that all of our students are engaged in grade-appropriate assignments, to ensure that all of our teachers are providing strong math instruction, to ensure that all of our students are deeply engaged in the content of the lesson, and to ensure that all of our teachers have high expectations for their students. Next slide, please. At the top of the page, in the orange box, you will see the APS vision for mathematics teaching and learning. It states, all APS students, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, or learning differences, will consistently experience high-quality mathematics instruction that positions them to graduate prepared for college, career, and life. On the bottom of this page, you will see a set of skills that we expect to see from all students as they engage in mathematics instruction. On the next slide, we will walk through each of these one at a time. Next slide, please. So on the left-hand side, you see those skills. And on the right-hand side of the chart, you see the same 7 skills, but we've kind of helped you understand what we mean when we say each of those. So number 1 says, see mathematics as a connected discipline that helps them understand the world and critique new ideas. So what does that mean? It means that we want students to understand how math can be used in other subject areas and also how math can be used in the real world. Next, it says, demonstrate that they are flexible and resourceful problem solvers by making meaning of the mathematics. What does that mean? We want students to have and use a variety of skills to solve math problems and understand what the math problems are asking them to do. So do they truly understand what they're being asked to do when they see a math problem? Third, you see, challenge each other's thinking through reasoning and evidence-based critique. What does that mean? We want students to be able to talk to their peers about math and agree or disagree based on what they know. So ground their conversations in fact and ground their conversations in math. Number 4, engage in productive struggle with grade level aligned tasks that invite them to use their prior knowledge to build new understanding. That simply means we want students to use the skills they have learned in previous grades to help them tackle and work through difficult problems. So how do they use what they previously learned to help them tackle and work through difficult problems? Number 5, demonstrate their mathematical understanding with peers and teachers, both orally and in writing, through grade appropriate mathematical representations. What does that mean? We want students to be able to show that they understand math by using models or pictures that are appropriate for their grade level. So it may be appropriate for a kindergartner to use sticks or circles to multiply or to add, subtract, but as students get older, that is not an appropriate strategy. So how do they use models or pictures that are appropriate for their grade level to show that they understand math? On the 6th line, you see exhibit a growth mindset by taking risk, seeking feedback from teachers and peers, and reflecting on both their successes and mistakes. What does that mean? We want students to attempt to solve math problems that they think are difficult, to attempt them, ask for help from their peers and teachers when they need it, and reflect on what they did well and how they can improve. So how are students attempting to solve math problems that are difficult? And finally, collaborate with peers and build relationships based on mutual respect and inclusion of each other's mathematical ideas. What does that mean? We want students to work with other students to solve math problems in a way that is respectful of each other's ideas. So these are the math skills we want students to be able to show as they engage in math instruction throughout their time in APS. So next slide, please. How can you as parents help with math at home? What kind of activities can you do or support can you provide to help us realize our vision for math instruction? Point out math in everyday life. Encourage your child to figure out answers to real life situations. So as you're driving, as you're cooking, how can you point out math that you see all around you? When your child is working on math homework, ask him or her to explain how he or she got the answer. So if a student can talk you through their work and explain to you how they solved a problem, they pretty much know what they're doing. Have your child teach you math. So sometimes the way that we learn math may not be the way that our child is learning math. So have them teach you how they solve the problem. Provide your child with verbal math problems. So ask them problems out loud to get them to start thinking through problems in their head. Embrace the struggle. This one is hard. Sometimes math can be difficult for students. We want you and we want them to tackle problems, to stick with them, to not be afraid of difficult problems, and learn to think through them as they try to solve and work out things that may be difficult for them. And then finally, avoid negative math attitudes. So math may not be your favorite subject, but how can you talk about math in a positive way to make sure that your child thinks about and talks about math in a positive way? So what's next for math instruction in APS? We will continue to build teacher and leader knowledge about the math vision for teaching and learning. We will also implement a new math standards during the 23-24 school year. So we are working to build teacher understanding and teacher and principal knowledge throughout this school year of the new math standards. And then finally, we will adopt new math textbooks in our elementary and high schools in the spring. So we wanted to give you a little bit of information about our math textbook adoption process. So we actually do not select the math textbook. We have a committee of various stakeholders that will select the math textbook. The committee consists of teachers, administrators, instructional coaches or specialists, and parents. The committee starts meeting this month, and once they narrow down the choices, the textbooks will actually be available for parents to view and provide feedback. The math textbook adoption committee will begin meeting this month, and the final selection will be made by March 31st. So one final reminder about our next MAP winter testing window. So students will begin taking their MAP growth assessments this Friday, November 4th, and they will continue through November 18th. And remember that as all students in grades K through 12 will take the MAP growth assessment. The MAP fluency assessment begins on December 5th and will end on December 9th. All students in grades pre-K through 2 will take the MAP fluency assessment. So we encourage you to make sure your children are at school on those days so they can get their MAP test completed. And as soon as we finish that MAP assessment, you will receive your MAP family report once again to make you aware of how your students performed on this MAP assessment as compared to their last MAP assessment. We will pause for questions.
And I don't see any questions in the chat. So on behalf of Chief Academic Officer Yolanda Brown, the Division of Academics, Teaching and Learning, Instructional Technology, and Student Services, we want to thank you for your participation this evening and have a great evening. Thank you.